Hello, what's up? Welcome back to the Beyond the Coach podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kelsey Nanini,
And I'm Chris Sweet.
and we're gonna chit chat today because when we chit chat every day, but when
We're yappers.
we just yip yap. When we merged, we had so many people asking us about it because I feel like there wasn't a lot of people at the time of us merging that were business partners. Like, I think there was a lot of people we knew of that maybe had tried it out, but we just kind of full on did the thing and it happened really quickly. And I feel like we never really, we like talked about it on the podcast. We alluded to it. We were like, hey, we're going to eventually talk about this, but we wanted to be able to get through a full year of business together. And now we are at 14 months together, almost to the date. When this launches, it'll be past 14 months. But
Why do I feel like we talk about Apex like it's, when people say, how old's your baby? It's like, oh, they're 14 months. I'm like,
my baby's 27 months.
Fast forward a few years, we're going to be like, yeah, they're 36 months old.
It's true. Actually, I thought the same exact thing when I said it. I was like, I feel kind of silly for saying 14 months, but hey, that is what it is. And boy, have we been through a lot in the past 14 months.
Well, I was going to say too, I think what's unique about being a year in is that we experienced a little bit of everything in that year. And so It's not just us talking on what went into the merge and what's gone well and, what maybe hasn't and whatever. It's no, here's us dealing with real life with a business partner, and we never dealt with real life with a business partner prior to merging. It was always just us and assistant coaches, and I never had to worry about another person in that realm of it. But that was also one reason we merged. So it's kind of funny how the reason we merged, everything kind of happened in that year to prove to us, I think, that we needed the merge for the both of us. And yeah, I'm excited to talk on it. And I did get a lot of messages about it.
So many people. We were like, maybe we'll eventually just create here's how to do this kind of thing. Here's our course.
If you guys are interested in a partnership course, let us know. Link in bio or CTA. Drop the word merge, and I'll send you a training.
Hopefully we can get enough out in this, but we have a ton of ACA clients and cohort people who have in the past. Cohort members that have asked us about the journey into merging and just everything. And I think we did it the merge itself, we did very seamlessly. Mm-hmm. You put two type A people together, and my goodness, we really put something together quick. Even our mentor, Kendall, was like, you guys did this so fast. I feel like you need to actually teach other people how to do this. And I think going back, I guess we could just start from the kind of the beginning of Apex, pre-Apex. Chris and I were both operating businesses on our own. Both of us, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, where both of us had bigger companies before we merged. When we merged, they were much smaller. I had only an assistant coach at that point. I had no other employees or contractors or anything on my team. And Chris had 3 assistant coaches that came in, one wanting to kind of transition into ops. So I feel like at the time of us merging, it was kind of a perfect scenario where we weren't merging. And Chris, at one point you had 8 assistant coaches.
Yeah, I think at the largest, my team was 10 people, with assistant coaches and setter and a salesperson, the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert, I hated it. So.
I can't imagine too, if we would have merged at that point, when I at one point had 2 setters, a VA, 2 assistant coaches. Also, I look back and why did I have 2 setters? And the funny part was one was actually doing substantially more than the other. One of them wasn't really doing anything. Anyways, I can't imagine merging 16 people together. So when we did it, it was kind of perfect, but we ended up attending the WWBA event in Austin in December of 24. And at the time, Chris and I were just excited to meet. Our flights landed at roughly the same time. So we met in the airport in the baggage claim. for the first time, and we were actually we shared a bed. Funny enough, actually, we did. Hello, nice to meet
We did a
you.
lot of things on a first date.
Moved really fast on our first date. And I noticed as the weekend progressed, we just were realizing more and more how similar we were. And we knew we both were like kind of going all in on coaches and like wanting to coach coaches and really grow that arena. You were getting ready to actually create your own course. Um, and then we kind of, over the course of just different like parts of the retreat, we were like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like what if we just went together?
And it was kind of funny because, yeah, like prior to the event, Kelsey and I had done like some Zoom calls, and I recommend for you guys, like, if there's people you do want to connect with on the internet, like, shoot them a DM and just be like, hey, I'd love to connect if you're open to doing like
Yes.
a Zoom. And I always like to call them like little masterminds. Like, if you want to mastermind on a Zoom together, like, I'd love to do that and just like talk about business. I was actually talking with my friend Alicia on Friday about business, and she was like, this is just so cathartic. Like, it's so nice to just talk to people sometimes and like talk about business and talk about things. And I'm like, and that's why I always say the power of social media is great if you can connect with people that way. So Kelsey and I had done like a few Zooms, and I was picking Kelsey's brain. It was actually a prior mentor of both Kelsey and I's that was like, Chris, you should reach out to Kelsey because she has a very similar business to what you are trying to create. And she's really great. And, she'll connect with you. And it's funny because then Kelsey and I became like buddy texting even. I remember you talking to me about hiring an assistant coach, and you were like, should I go with this person or this person? And we were just going back and forth about a lot. So then you fast forward to this event. And what was unique about this event, and I had been to a few WWBA events prior, you don't always get put into small groups, but at this one we were kind of put into like groups of maybe 8 to 10 people out of, again, 40 people at this event. Kelsey and I were thankfully in the same small group. And in this small group, you had prompts or you had questions that you were asked, and you were talking about your goals and your vision. And this retreat was probably one of my favorites too, because it also talked about real life stuff. It talked about your personal goals and the stories behind, your personal goals. Like, why do you want to pay off debt? What's the bigger picture to paying off debt? Like, we got to talk about a lot of vulnerable topics together in this weekend span. But I remember being in these, small groups, and Kelsey and I were sitting next to each other, and some of the groups you would go counterclockwise, some of the groups you would go clockwise in answering, the questions. And if Kelsey went first and then I went second, I was like, well, shit, like I have the same answer as Kelsey to like the question that was just asked. So here I am being like,
time.
retweet. And then if I went first, Kelsey would kind of have that too of being like, okay, well, shit, I had the same answer as Chris. And I remember Melissa was sitting next to us, and she was like, guys, it was Melissa and then Chelsea. They were like the two that were in our group, and they were like, you guys are just too similar. Like, there's just something like you two need to talk, like not even nudging a merge necessarily. They were like, you just need to talk about the fact that like you have such similar goals and topics that you're talking about. And then it's just kind of like the light bulb moment went off for Kelsey and I. And just after we got to talk about money and life goals and kids and like where our hesitation is even in scaling a business, which a lot of that came down to like wanting a family and being like, well, how the hell do you run a business at the caliber we want to, but not also like lose ourselves and not also get to appreciate like motherhood or like being with our kids. And it was almost like it was lining up all too much. We also talked with one individual or a couple individuals at the retreat who had prior business partnerships that didn't work out for one reason or another. So we got to get like, we were in the best room possible. We were in the best room to like ask questions. We had mentors around us. We had everyone, and everyone was very honest with like their experience. I think what helped Kelsey and I were like a few things. One, we were both established in business. So we almost both had resumes that we could present to each other to be like, hey, we've been doing this. Here's my business. Here's my metrics. Here's my numbers. Like, here's my work ethic, basically. We also, at that time, too, got to have very vulnerable conversations. So we got to talk about like really where we were at in life. If Kelsey, and I always say this, if Kelsey was single in her younger 20s and I was married and getting ready to have kids, I don't think that would have worked. Like, I don't think that being in because that's what I learned from the people we had talked to, was that their business partner was just in a very different season of life. They were either still, young and partying and like drinking and doing drugs and like doing that on the weekend. And the other person was like in a settled relationship and, wanted to buy a house or move or travel. And so that was creating a lot of friction in those partnerships. So when Kelsey and I got to sit down and be like, hey, we've both been married for a few years. Kelsey obviously has her house. I was like, yeah, I want to move somewhere. I want to establish my roots more so somewhere. We both love traveling, but we both want to have kids in the next few years. And, we both want these things. We're both dog moms. Like, it lined up all too well to where I think I felt very comfortable being like, this person's values and life goals really align with my values and life goals. And you need that level of understanding from a business partner to really understand your life a little bit more. And we're both very family oriented and friend oriented. We both have social lives. We both have the things we want to value. So we respect that from each other too.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And those were a lot of conversations we had. Like, we didn't make obviously the decision didn't come lightly, but I remember calling Kaden because I was like, I was supposed to leave the event early.
Yes.
And I was like, I really don't think I can. And like, it was really tough because I was actually supposed to go to a client's powerlifting competition. I was literally going to land on Saturday morning and drive 2.5 hours to the event, to the comp. And I was like, first off, I don't even know if I'm going to make it in time. And it turns out I wasn't going to. Like, it turns out I would have actually missed like half of her competing. And then I was like, I really think I need to see this out. Like, I need to like talk. I need to be here for this last day with Chris to like really figure some things out. And I was like calling Kaden. I was like, I don't know what to do. He's like, well, do you think this could be beneficial? Like, all this stuff, like, you've been kind of stuck in the same spot for a while and like just really, not knowing what you want to do and all that. So like in terms of like scaling or not, and like all those things, and obviously all the things Chris just mentioned, like were really aligned with both of us. So I remember saying, and it was like, obviously I was so upset to have missed my client's comp because she is amazing. But it was like, it just made sense to stay. And it obviously changed, like, not that if I would have stayed, like not stayed or stayed, we probably could have had the same result, but I think just really hashing out more things that day and like determining what we needed to do when we got home. We literally got home Sunday and Monday had our first meeting. And like, I swear we had like 12 hours of meetings with each other.
Girl,
like that first, like 2 to 3 weeks and then a month. Like, we were meeting every week for 8 hours a week.
Yeah.
For a good 2 months.
Yep.
Like, we'd have 3-hour calls.
Yes. I remember specifically like one of our calls, when we were even trying to develop the name of Apex, because we knew like, we had all these ideas and I mean, I think when you take two type A people and the two type A people finally get in a creative flow, there's just like no pumping the brakes. You're like, we're just going until we find the end destination here. And then it started like clicking and we were talking with like chat and we were like, okay, give us some names related to like mountains. And we were like, okay, mountains and this and this and this. And there was like all these different words and terms. But we met so much. And like I remember turning to Kendall at the event, the both of us, and we were like, Kendall, we have an idea, and we kind of threw the idea of a merge, and then Amanda was sitting next to her, and I remember Amanda kind of being like, ooh, like this would be really good.
Yeah.
And even Kendall was like, take some time to think about it. And we came to her that following week because she was like, let's hop on a one-on-one.
We met on like Tuesday after, like quickly after.
Met like immediately. And I think she knew the both of us needed something different. Like, I think she knew the both of us like needed some different spark in business. And this is why I love having a mentor that I've known for years now, who's like gotten to know me. And she was obviously working with you for a bit of time at that point to kind of like see both your business and my business. It's not like we were just hiring a random new business mentor and being like, hey, here's everything, like here's what we're thinking. We actually had someone who could really speak on behalf of like both of our businesses. And funny enough, Kendall is actually like the mediator of our business. Like, if Kelsey and I are ever in like a disagreement, Kendall is kind of the tiebreaker for us, and we trust her that much. And that went a really long way to have someone that we could sit down with and have that. But that was December, and then January we were just launched and ready to go.
Yeah, it happened very quickly. I was trying to find if I could see where our initial plan was, but I was gonna kind of go through like everything that kind of entailed. Like, when we got together, I think the first piece of it was,
dude, the checklists we had were insane. We were like making the checklist at this event of like everything that would need to happen. And holy heckin' Bob, guys, this checklist, she was long.
I know the first thing, like, it was like obviously getting on the call, like really hashing out, like, are we going to do this thing? And that happened Monday. And we were like, you know what? We've had some time to think about it. Perfect. Let's go. We already had the same lawyer, so that was helpful. We
Yeah.
had him actually draft up like our divorce agreement. That was actually one of the really, really like probably one of the most beneficial pieces of advice we got at the event was one of the
Mm-hmm.
WWBA coaches at the time. She was like, um, the plan for the divorce. That's one thing. Like, it was like, if something happened to you, would you
Yep.
trust that the other partner would take care of the family of the others in terms of like financially? And we were like 100% yes. Do your
Mm-hmm.
values align? We were like 100% yes. And then the third was like plan for the divorce. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like planning and like nobody wants to plan for something bad to happen. I think that's one, like, not a super, I won't call that a superpower of mine, but I feel like I'm very like not, I don't like to call myself pessimistic or optimistic. I'm very realistic in the
Yeah.
sense like bad things can happen. And so just like I think that was one of the things like that was really important to me, and I know to Chris as well, was we were like, okay, if something does go bad, like what do we do in
Mm-hmm.
that case? And basically we signed literal legal paperwork determining what exactly would happen.
Yeah.
Um and kind
I
of went
did.
from
I
there.
did
And
find the document, by the way,
oh,
if you're not
amazing.
looking at it. I just
Wait,
texted it to you.
perfect. I want to see it. It's been so long. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And I think too, it's like we had both been through, because the both of us had been through already so much in business. I think planning for the divorce and kind of not overhyping this whole thing, right? When you get, and I had had so many moments in business where my rose colored glasses were on and it was like, this is going to be the best thing ever. And this is so good and yada, yada, yada. And I've been humbled many, 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 many times in business. And I know so had you, that I think going into this, it was, yes, this spark, this excitement, maybe this over romanticizing this idea. And like, yeah, we've been, even in partnership, been humbled a couple times and had moments where we're like, okay, but we've worked together through it. And having people come to us that weren't just like, oh my God, yeah, do it, merge, it's going to be so great. Like, we had people literally saying, think about the divorce, think about would the other person take care of your family. Like, that was really like a huge conversation for me, was just thinking, yeah, like, would Kelsey, if something happened to me, take care of, Kenneth and my, like, my dogs? Will she care for my dogs? Will she care for like my future kids? And now I love that I get to be like Auntie Chris to Deacon, and like we see this all come to fruition of like, I would take care of like obviously Kaden and Otson, and he's barking in the background.
Austin's like, will you take care of me though?
About me, screw Deacon.
It's
He's
funny
like,
how you know the
what
barks.
about me? Oh, I do. I'm like, I can
That's
define
awesome.
those. Like, I could probably, their little like sniff moments, I'm like, I could probably define Otson versus Burrow for that one. But
Yeah.
I think that was really big because we actually had people not just coming to us and saying, yeah, it's going to be great and all this stuff is going to be wonderful. It's like, hey, real life happens. Like, real life happens. And when real life happens, like, what does that look like for the both of you in business? And again, knowing each other virtually online and building that relationship and almost not being friends first. Like, we were kind of just acquaintances and just like business acquaintances first. Also removed a little bit of that emotion too, versus merging with like your best friend. It's like we merged with each other, that we knew each other, but didn't have that like full friendship quite yet. And we just got to have really honest conversations thanks to the event.
Yeah. And so like basically like what we did, we came home and we were like, at the time my assistant coach actually was going to be going on maternity leave. So we were determining what the maternity leave would look like when, we had actually two coaches. One went on maternity leave in April and one started in June. And just like what that, like that was one of the big things that we had to talk about, but like the systems we switched, like we were talking about, okay, how do we like save on expenses? And it was like GHL, Chris is coming to Kelsey's. Everfit, it's because I paid in full for mine. Like hindsight, it would have been way easier to switch to Chris's because she had more clients, but everybody switched over to my Everfit because I already paid. We had to set up a new Stripe. I transferred my Monday to Chris's. The website, we transferred to GHL. We actually hired, that was another thing, like immediately we hired that was what, like within the first couple weeks, we were like, hey, we need a branding specialist. And so at the time, Cammie, who's incredible, was actually just getting her business up and running for branding. And so we contacted her. She did like all the Apex branding, did our entire website, everything. And then we had to have like a signing system. So we used Chris's Sign Now. We created a new Google Drive. So we both had Apex emails with the website. We used my Typeform because again, I had paid for a year. We like started the Slack channel. We needed insurance, like all these things we kind of just like figured out. Like I transferred to Chris's Canva, like all the systems we needed. We like nailed that down and then really got to once we did the branding and stuff and figured that all out. Luckily, like Cami took care of a lot of that stuff, which was a lot off of our plate. Chris planned a visit after the holidays, like very early January, so that by time we launched, we could have like our photos back. Which we almost didn't, but that was fine. We then like went into like our offer and our pricing, and we knew we wanted to start focusing on coaches. So we put together a lifestyle, we put together a coaching offer, and it's like, and then we started a cohort literally 2 months after launching was our first cohort in March of 2025. So things kind of just moved really quickly. I think one thing when we were like really putting everything together was we were so hyper focused on coaches and getting that off the ground. We had like a initial deal for merging, but like I almost feel like because we were so focused on that, at times our assistant coaches were kind of like left in the dark on what was going on. And so like hindsight, I kind of wish we wouldn't have that. I go back and forth on it because that cohort was like incredible. It was like the best group of girls, like so interactive and involved and like obviously trusting in us, especially since we had just merged. But I think it would have been helpful to like nurture our assistant coaches a little bit more in hindsight. Now, they all stayed with us. They all stuck with us through it for the most part, technically. But we, I think that it would have been, helpful to give them more support in that time. But what we basically did was like, I just started meeting with the coaches to like get to know Chris's coaches more because I was coming in and I know Chris and I both talked about this was like, I didn't want to come in and I'm not like this in general of like big mean Kelsey, like that's not my vibe. But I think I came in and I was trying to be like cool, funny, and like I didn't know how to have authority at first with, three people who I'd never been in charge of before. And all of a sudden I'm like the head coach, like in charge of them. It was like kind of like awkward at first. But it's so awesome. Like I feel like we just have created such a great team. And obviously a lot of that comes from Chris having like lifers on her team that have just stuck with her through everything. But yeah, it was tough. Like I feel like it was a little bit of rocky. We had to like have like a team meeting in like I feel like May to June to like recreate our culture and like bring everyone back together because we recognized like it was rocky when we merged. And we kind of had to have that discussion with them of like, hey, like this is what Apex is about. This is, our goals and like kind of bringing them more together. And I feel like after that, like everybody was so bought in and like I don't know, something changed in that meeting where I feel like they felt a lot more taken care of and also like a lot more excited for opportunities to coach coaches and to coach higher level people and that kind of thing, which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything you said. I think the most unique part of it was merging team members together. And then, for us stepping into almost like having to break up with the old identity that we had, because I think we both had been holding on to a version of ourselves and a version of our brand that like was no longer supporting our future goals. And so we even had to have just like some really hard conversations with Kendall of like where to take the brand, where to take the community, how to not people please every single person and just like do what we needed to do for us and recognize that we were building something new moving forward. So I think that was some of the bigger conversations behind the scenes with Kendall specifically that even we needed just a little bit of a reality check on of like, this is new. This is something that we get to step into and we get to set the tone for it and how we were setting the tone for it, with our first cohort and everything. Like, I think that was a huge catalyst of our excitement and now led to us just now having like our most successful cohort launch to date. And, I'm so stoked about this cohort and like the group of coaches we get to support. So, yeah, like you said, it's almost like it's like, I don't know, like there's definitely things where you're like, could I have done that differently? Could I have done that better? But like, would it have not led us to like where we are today? Who knows? Like, would we have still been staying in our comfort zone?
100%. And yeah, there was, like you said, a few tough conversations. I think one of them in this was like something I talked to Chris about, like probably last January, I think it was, of like, I was like, hey, I just like feel bad. Like you brought in a majority of like the income that we have. Like I think at the time, like when we combined our monthly recurring revenue, Chris had like it was like 66%,
Yeah, it was like a weird
5% or something. And mine, or maybe it was like 67 point something, and mine was
yeah.
like 32%. And so I was like, I feel really bad. Like you're bringing in a majority of the revenue right now. And she's like, yeah, you literally brought in a whole course that we're using. So like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that I had to get used to, but that how we kind of structured that was like, we created a pool of income that Chris and I would be able to take home every month. And I took 32% of that income, and Chris took the other portion. And basically, as we've had clients re-sign with Apex, as we had clients leave, that kind of evened out to where now we're pretty much like even in terms of people, because as soon as people re-sign with Apex, they were considered an Apex client and not somebody that Chris brought in. And so
And that was something we like legally that our lawyer
yes,
asked us about, that we were like, oh, we didn't even, this is again why legally working with a
yes.
professional is really important, because Kelsey and I literally had to sit down and be like, huh, like we didn't think about that. Like we didn't think about what is a client categorized at different points. Like they really get you expanding on like, again, more than the rose colored glasses. Like they get you expanding on the bigger picture of things from a structural standpoint.
Which was nice to have like that point of view, because at first we were like, what does happen? Like, yeah, we both own 50% of Apex, but like, what does that mean? And then there's obviously all the taxes. Like we had to meet with Chris's accountant. I actually had an accountant I really, really liked. But it made more sense for us to merge into Chris's accountant because of the way his business was set up. And also she loved him. He's awesome. Frank and his team at All In Advisors, great company. Like we've really enjoyed working with him, and all the help that they do. They keep our books. They do our bookkeeping, and then they also do like payroll for us, and then obviously like our taxes and all that. So that piece of it too was like, okay, well, how do we pay ourselves? So basically like Apex pays, like Revolution and Real Health and Performance are still companies. And basically that's how we pay ourselves. So because we're both S Corp, but we can't be S Corp together under Apex. So that kind of stuff is really tough. So if you're merging, even just like I tried to explain it to someone that was asking about merging companies and how that works. And I was like, well, I recommend you be an S Corp. I can't explain it to you very well because even Frank had to explain it to us like 3 times of how it works. And now I
Amount
can
of times
like,
that we had to sit down with Frank and we were like, Frank, I know you've told us this before.
yeah,
Run it back. We're gonna need it
right.
again.
I like understand it now, but it is very complicated at first. You're like, what does this mean? And so that kind of stuff was just really helpful in terms of figuring that out. And then just obviously me recognizing like, yeah, okay, like I didn't bring in like a majority of these clients, so I just have to wait to be paid accordingly long term. And now we're almost close to being even in terms of pay. And each month we basically take a look at like, okay, do we have much money left over? And Chris and I will basically pay ourselves that. But the other piece we had to put together that Kendall was like, hey, like being a business partnership doesn't mean you guys are both doing a little bit of everything. Like it doesn't make sense for you both to be dipping your toes in the same exact things. Like you need to figure out what you're good at and what the other person's good at and determine what your roles are. And I feel like we actually kind of fell into that pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty naturally.
Like pretty naturally. One nice thing is obviously Chris is with WWBA as a coach. And so she has like a direct line of leads that is super nice for us. Like a lot of people that we have from cohorts and even ACA are people that either Chris has coached or that they've just seen on calls through WWBA. And obviously we're super thankful for Kendall for, you know, trusting in us and our business. And obviously we've sent like many of our assistant or our Apex coaches from Apex Coach Accelerator there as well. So that's one big piece is obviously Chris is helping with the lead gen. When we did have an appointment setter, she was primarily focused on the appointment setter. And then also just like overseeing like more of the marketing, the creatives, also overseeing a lot of the company while I was on maternity leave. But I took on more of like the logistical side. So just like the finance piece of it, payroll, managing the margins every month, which is stuff that I was like, oh, I could like geek over about this all day. And I never, and like, I'm not like that in marriage. Like Caden takes on all of our finances. So when I told him, I'm like, I'm in charge of the Apex finances. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah,
He's like,
it's
are you
actually
sure
something I
about
really
that?
enjoy. Yeah. I'm like, I actually like really like it. Um, and then like paying Chris and I out every month, like that kind of stuff. And then I also oversee our coaching staff. So I
Mhm.
audit all their stuff, which is something I think is so important that we do at Apex. And I hope that like every coach that has assistant coaches is doing this. It's something I didn't used to do very consistently the first time I had assistant coaches, but just auditing their check-ins, auditing what they're doing for clients, checking in on them, just like supporting them and then meeting with them. Each individually once a week, and just making sure all of that is good. So it's been kind of nice to just be able to balance our different um, things. And then, like, when we have launches, Chris is working really closely with our ops manager, Megan, to make sure like emails are going out and like kind of like almost just like launches going seamlessly, which has been incredible. And we both agree we could not survive without Megan. Um, when she went on maternity leave last year for 12 weeks, she got back and she like kind of just got back right into like just doing everything. And we were like, Chris asked one time on one of our meetings, she's like, how did we survive without Megan? Like, what did we do without her? And I was like, oh, we nothing. We didn't do anything. Like, we
And
didn't
Megan,
survive
Megan would
without her.
agree with that too. Megan would be like, yeah, y'all didn't do any of the
Way
shit.
back, she's like, what the hell happened here?
Mhm.
She's like literally our savior. So
Megan
everyone needs a
is
Megan.
Megan's a G. Like she's literally our asset, our biggest asset to this team right now, simply because she and that girl, I always say, I'm like, she could ruin our lives. She has access to our email, she has access to our bank accounts. Like you have to find someone you really trust to hand off that stuff. And Megan, I just know is like the most trustworthy person. So Megan, if you're listening, we love you.
These
Thanks
are
for sticking around.
literally keeps us running, keeps us focused, asks questions when she needs to. Like, what are you guys talking about here? This doesn't make sense. Kind of keeps us like accountable too. Like, I know there was one meeting last year. I feel like it was after she came back. Maybe it was before she left, but she was like, it was after. It was when she came back. She's like, I think you
Mhm.
guys are being a little messy.
Yes.
It was like an August challenge or something we did, and she was like, I think you need to plan a little bit better. She's like, and we were like, okay, well, hold us accountable then. Like, just make sure we're not getting too CEO excited, dreamland.
Yeah.
Everything is sunshine and roses. Like, and she's been so helpful. So she's our resident ops manager slash registered dietitian slash has a couple clients still on her roster because her clients like love
Won't
her
leave.
and just won't leave. Yeah, which we're so thankful for. They're amazing and obviously love Megan and she's incredible. But yeah, it's funny. She's like, I like am fine with my coaching, like the coaching I'm doing right now, but like I just want to do ops. And so she
Mhm.
keeps a smaller roster and takes care of her clients really well, obviously, because they just don't want to leave, which is great. We are happy to have them.
Yep. Yeah, so grateful, honestly, for like just the loyalty of the clients who have stuck with us through the merge too, because like genuinely through everything, while yes, I wish we did some stuff maybe a little bit differently, like we were always trying to think of our clients and like think of them and make sure that everyone was taken care of. And honestly, that's where our coaching staff came into play. Like they made sure that their clients were safe and heard and like understood the transition, and the hype was just so real, so that's what was exciting too. And I think it took a little bit for us to get our footing of like getting it out there of like what we're doing. And now I feel like it's very clear and like our brand's very established, which doesn't always happen in a year for some people, but for us, I think we just really like stuck to it, which was very important, in this process.
And I think it was like going all in on something we were still so scared to do. Like for so
Mhm.
long, I wanted to go all in on coaches, but I remembered like, okay, well, most of my following isn't. They're all lifestyle clients that aren't coaches. Like, are they going to be they're scared away? Are they not going to want to join? And we saw this team of assistant coaches. Like, what do we do now? And at one point, it was actually like a month before I had a child. I remember this. November was the most chaotic month ever. I'm like, any day now I'm gonna pop out this child. It's funny enough, I did not in November
That kid
pop out
did
a
not want to
child.
come out.
Deacon was very, very ornery, stubborn, and I'm sure he always will be.
Yep.
But all in a month, we had, I don't, maybe we let go of a coach in October. We let go of her in October. And
Mhm.
then we actually brought on Frankie because she was going to be able to coach coaches, take on a bigger roster. And also, like, we actually hadn't planned on taking on anyone until after I came back from maternity leave. But it just so happened, like, Frankie's like, I don't want to be running a business anymore. I just want to coach. And we were like, Kendall, help. Can we just wait until Kelsey comes back? And Kendall's like, no, like, you need to do this now. Like, just do it. So that was the chaos of getting her trained, mixed with Kendall's like giving us like this tough conversation of like, hey, y'all need to just go all in on coaches and just like full send it, like stop playing small, and like gave us some tough love that I think we just really needed because we shied away from doing it for a full year. And it's so funny because as soon as we did that, we actually like ended up attracting like way more ideal clients, like even not coaches. Like obviously we've attracted a lot of great coaches. We've built up ACA. I was like looking at our ACA chat the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is packed full of people. This is crazy in Slack.
Mhm.
Um, but like also the like in our birthday scholarship, like between March of last year when we ran scholarship and this year running scholarship, it's crazy how many more people we attracted that are like our people, like the people we want to coach. And we were really afraid of what our assistant coaches would think, and it's only like leveled them up more. Like they've started to post to coaches, they've started posting more high level content, but not even just that, they've stepped up in their own coaching. Like I've just noticed it so much in the weekly audits that I give them. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're all like stepping up so much more and like taking care of their clients, challenging their clients more in like a positive way, obviously. And it's so interesting and something I've like been telling my ACA clients is like, hey, if you actually want to have like a specific niche, like post to just that. It's gonna take time to get traction. I mean, it took us a full year before we were finally like kind of not effortlessly. It didn't come without like a lot of effort, but like it took us almost a year to feel comfortable in just focusing on that. And it's like really taken off in the past 5 months, which has been incredible.
Yeah. I think a lot of tough love, and you got to have the right person to give you the tough love too. And you have to be open to tough love. It's, hard when you're building something new already. But I think like had we had a mentor that was just trying to people please and just trying to like tell us what we wanted to hear, we wouldn't have been where we're at. Like Kendall's the type of mentor, and we try to be this type of mentor to our clients as well, where it's like, we're not going to give you all the fluff. Like we want to give it to you straight and show you like what I wish people would have told me much earlier on. And yeah, now we're like going into this year and just feeling good. And we experienced, I guess we can kind of like pivot into a little bit of like what we both experienced last year and how we navigated that because again, like we both just went through like the first half of the year, not my half, not my brightest moments. Second half of the year, it's not that you didn't have your brightest moments. You just got pregnant unexpectedly, and you also like tore your meniscus again and had
Big
or
time.
you just had a couple. Maybe you did have some little moments. It's fine. So there was just a lot happening. So it was almost like we had finally recovered from like shit that I was going through, and then boom, you had stuff going on, and then also boom, then my mother-in-law passed away, so I just had to deal with a lot of shit then. And it was like we just packed on a lot. We packed on
Yeah.
like injury, we packed on grief, we packed on me moving across the country, we packed on you having a baby. And so I guess like maybe we just touch on that
Yeah.
because again, rose-colored glasses, but then real life fucking happens and you're like, do I get frustrated with my business partner because they're not holding the same, slack that they're supposed to? Like, and I guess I'll let maybe you go first because it all kind of started with me in March timeframe, like kind of Mexico and everything that happened there is when things started to go downhill for myself. So like where I had to take a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, I feel like the beginning of the year was like we were kind of in like the honeymoon phase. Like January, February, we had just launched, like things were going well. We actually hit a 50K month like pretty early on. What month was it? Like
Was
I
it
think we were just
March
was it March?
with our
Let's see.
cohort?
Yeah, March and then
Mhm.
also July. July? Is that June or July?
Mm-hmm.
What
July?
month? June.
June.
June. June. And then, yeah, I mean, like the month, actually, like October was our worst month, funny enough, but we ended up like just literally, it was like, it just, it, oh, I just realized that we never ended up filling in how much we made in December. Anyways, uh, anyways, the, we started off like we were just so excited, right? Like, you know, you're in this, what's the word I want to think of? Bliss. You're in this like bliss of life and happiness and all the things. And then,
Mhm.
you know, shit just hits the fan and you're like Mexico happened and we ended up like we went to Mexico like really excited for business and to kind of bring things together and it was for WWBA. We got in a scooter crash. Chris then had like weird gut issues that happened and like some weird shit happened and then came back from Mexico and obviously like well, I not obviously. I in the span of a week, I tore my meniscus on Wednesday. Burrow ate my laptop while I was on a call with Chris and one of our assistant coaches, and my laptop went black. So I had to go to the store and buy a new laptop.
Most expensive purchase is your dog.
Really got a new phone with it.
Actually,
I
for
was
the
like,
both
well,
of us, but for different reasons.
quite literally. And then Saturday I found out I was pregnant. And so like in the span of like 4 days, I was like, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Bo had been sick, had
Mm-hmm.
cancer and ended up passing in early April,
Mid-April, April 19th.
mid-April.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all that happened while our assistant coach slash ops manager, Megan, was going on maternity leave. And
Mm-hmm.
so and then Chris had got some like not great news about Bo while we were in Mexico. And so that was kind of also just like I think
I will never,
starting.
I will never forget the hot mess I was flying back because it was the last day of Mexico. And I can talk about it now and like not sob about it, but it was like we got the news from the oncologist that Bo had maybe like 4 weeks left to live, which is crazy because when he passed was literally like 4 weeks from the point of Mexico happening. But guys, me in this airport with I had a really busted up, like I had really bad road rash. I had a busted up ankle that was like swollen, and I still have a bruise to this day. Couldn't walk basically, but you know, Mexico medicine couldn't. I had nothing else other than pain meds to get me through. And I just remember going through the airport and I like cried on the plane. I cried in on my layover. Like they probably thought that I just had the biggest fucking crash out, and I would have been like, yeah, I
They did
was.
actually.
And I was about to go up to. I remember being in line at the Miami airport because you know how you have to like recheck yourself after landing. Like there's the whole like re-security process. I was like literally crying, and I remember going up to thinking of going up to one of the TSA workers and being like, hey, let me tell you about what unfolded over the last 24 hours. How do you get me around this line? Because I can't stand here anymore.
Dude,
Bad.
oh my god.
It was bad.
I remember like I ended up running through the Houston airport because all the flights were delayed coming out of Cancun. So I sprinted after my TSA world why can't I think of what
Global
it is?
entry?
My global entry didn't get me fully through. I had to wait in a super long line and I was like, well, what was the point of global entry? I'm just waiting with all these commoners that don't have global entry. But anyways, so it was just like a really like a lot of with spring and Chris took some time which she needed to obviously with Bo and you know, I kind of just took on a lot of the business and that was kind of something Chris and I just I think almost had an understanding of like, hey, temporarily things are gonna happen. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like we had like kind of a shit show of the first year, first 6 months, and we were like, if we can survive these 6 months, dear God, we can survive anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, and there was no question asked. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think I remember you messaging me of like, hey, you know, this is happening. It, not even asking for time. I was like, hey, you need to just take your time. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, you obviously had to take care of your clients. Like, there was only so much I could do with that. But I just kind of took on a lot of the business things for that time, took on calls, whatever it was, knowing that obviously, like, we had also agreed when maternity leave comes that, like, we would each get 12 weeks off paid. Like, the other person's just going to take on the brunt of the work. And that happened first part of the year. And then I know Kenneth's mom ended up passing, and so that happened as well. I kind of did the same thing of like, hey, let me just take on some of it. And again, knowing that like I had a huge leave coming up at the end of the year and to the beginning of this year. And I think too, like just the whole time it was like there was never like a feeling of, oh, I can't believe she would do this. But that was also because I recognized like it was not going to be this way forever. Like Chris and I both have a very good understanding that we are like hard workers, and we just, things change and things happen to where we just have to step up at certain times and be available for that. And obviously fast forward throughout the year was fine. Like summer was fine. The fall was fine. November hit. And that was when like we had things going in 16 different directions. I remember like mid-November, I remember because I was driving to Gilbert to get my hair done before popping a baby out. And that was when we were both having like our little mini crash out where like
I was gonna say, I don't think I ever felt burnout. Like obviously I had dealt with a lot of emotions. Neither you or I, well, I'll add two things. One, neither you and I had ever, I think, felt burnout in the entire process until we hit November. And then we both saw burnout versions of each other that we were like, we don't like this. We don't like when we're both burnt out. The second thing I will add real quick to what you said too, when I was going through everything with grief, you know, I forget if I was telling Kenneth, I think when Kenneth and I were talking and I was feeling kind of similar to you were like, I feel guilty. Chris is bringing in most of the income, whatever. I felt guilty because I was like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. And Kenneth, it definitely was him because he's a therapist. He always has great thoughts. He was like, but think about it, as sad as it is to think about, there will be a day where Kelsey goes through something like this and you're going to have to take it on. Like, you know, we own pets, we have family, we have this stuff. Like grief is a part of life. And like at some point you're going to have to support her through that. And so just remember the way she supported you, and like how she supports you is how you're going to support her. And I was like, no, you're so right. It's just, it sucks when you're going through it in the moment because you feel the guilt. But then I was just holding on to knowing like, one day, sadly, there will come a time where I have to take on something for Kelsey in a way that is unexpected. And so that was like the other piece of it. But going back to November, yes, we had never seen each other burnt out. And then that was scary.
It was scary. I remember being on a call with Chris and I was like, oh, she's not happy. And like, I was like, oh, like, I don't know how to have this conversation. And I forget, it wasn't a conversation. It was like you and I were on a call with someone else. And I don't remember who it was. If it was maybe our setter at the time, I don't know who it was, but I was like, Chris is not happy. Like, I need a voice. So we were voice memoing back and forth, and we obviously figured it out. It was just like both of us were kind of reaching our brink. And I, at that point, I wasn't checked out at all. I was like burnt out of like all the things that were happening when we had initially, like in the beginning of the year, I was like, hey, November is going to be our time. We both agree. Like we both thought it was going to be our time to just kind of coast because the holidays were coming. We obviously had like a little bit of a Black Friday deal, but like we had kind of had in our heads, like Kelsey's going to pop out a baby at the beginning of December, maybe early November was my hope, but I never ended up getting my glass of red wine on Thanksgiving. It's fine. But I remember, like, I think because in my head, I was like, oh, we're not going to have to do that much in November. To then, it wasn't even like we weren't doing that much. We were doing everything. Like, I was taking on training Frankie 3 times a week, that wasn't even the hard part. It was just, like, putting together all of the things, like, changing our messaging, like, finishing up our cohort. It was just, like, 10,000 things that weren't supposed to happen. I feel like they, like, happened. And so we had our first, like, tiff. But, like, we worked through it very well, and just I had to like communicate what I was noticing and like realizing, and then you had to communicate the things you were feeling, I was feeling. We just like there was like tension, and like I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to being in a business partnership is one, remembering like, and Chris and I are friends outside of business. Like we hang out, we went to spring training the other day, like we have dinner with our husbands and now our child, like we do things together. And so I think when it comes to having a business conversation, it's never like, oh, you know, I'm taking it personally because now Chris is mad at me and blah, blah, blah. Like, I've never thought of having that. And we've only had really one big tiff in business. And it was more like, no, I need to have this conversation, business partner, and then we'll be friends on the side. Like, we're still friends no matter what happens in business, but it's like,
Yeah.
we have to have these conversations and not be like hurt or like feeling victimized by it. And I think that was like a big helpful thing, was like, how do we have these conversations, and also being very like responsive to the other, like not just like leaving the other on red, or like not having those conversations, shying
Yeah.
away from them. It's like, maybe I can actually talk through this and Chris can help me through how I'm feeling, and vice versa, versus me kind of keeping it cooped up. And I feel like that's something we've always done really well at.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, because I think it was like, you were going through something with pregnancy that I couldn't understand. And then I was going through something just from like business and volume and like responsibility side that you couldn't understand. And it was like we both were kind of just in, and I forget who had said it. I honestly think it was in our voice memos back and forth, where we both equally said, we were like, we're both in just different like phases of tempo right now. Like, one person is like ready to push, ready to do this, but like has to be understanding that the other person needs to slow down, literally. And then vice versa. One person that needs to slow down needs to kind of be okay in that sense of the other person pushing, and there being kind of a little bit of I don't know the best word for it, but like just negotiating. Like, I think having negotiations with each other of like, okay, maybe we each thought it was going to look a different way, but let's like find a middle ground to that feels good for each of us in it. And we just needed that. But I think too, it's so funny because a lot of people are afraid to have confrontational conversations, and in business partnership it's hard, but you would just have to have them in the moment. Like, if one of us is thinking something, I think we both know that like, hey, let's sit down and let's hash it out, let's talk about it, because like we're both human and we both are also very smart business owners. I don't think that I would ever have you come to me with an idea and me be like, oh no, that's so dumb. It's like, actually, every idea each of us has ever brought to each other has made like some tweak within the business in the best way. And I just think you have to be open to it. You have to be open to being willing to hear someone out, and just know that it's not just your ideas anymore. It's not just your thing. It's like you're building this with someone else. And it helps again when that person's very like-minded. But we definitely had just been on like two different tempos at that time, trying to go two different tempos, but we were like, let's go at the same pace. And it was like, that doesn't make any sense for where we were at. And we both just needed to be honest of like personally how we were feeling behind the scenes, and then like actually what needed to get done in business at that point.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, like you were saying earlier with Kenneth, like one day you're gonna, like, I'm gonna need you, and things unexpected are gonna happen. And I think that it's not unexpected, but I think that's just come up in like maternity leave into coming back to work, and just me realizing like, holy shit, this is like another ball game. Like, I give so much props to moms who are working moms. Like, I was telling Chris, like, I was being fully, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how am I even supposed to work some days? Like, some days I literally can't fathom, like, how I work. And I've had to, like, really, like, it's been a huge adjustment for Kaden and I, and just recognizing, like, I have to take Deacon to a lot of calls. You're actually probably going to hear him in the background. We heard it, like, heard him before we started. Like, he's here, and, like, I've had to navigate how to do that. And we've obviously had discussions. We have most likely a nanny that's going to start in May that's going to just be here, like, 12 to 15 hours a week. That'll give me at least a little time back. And until then, I'm like, okay, well, like, I'm still going to do the same quality of work. It's just going to look a little bit different. Like, there are going to be times where I'm going to have to sit in the floor of the nursery and play around with Deacon, and like just be there and be able to like Chris said, like when we merged, it was the understanding that like we want to both be moms that are present. And like some days that looks like Deacon crying while I'm muted on a Zoom call and me trying to console him. But like sometimes I get to have a little bit of time when Kaden can watch him, and I can be here like on the podcast today. And it's like, you know, right now that's just like my experience that's happening. Eventually Chris is going to have that same experience, and we'll have to navigate it once again. But I think it's like, there's definitely been times where I've been like, you know, felt a little bit guilty, or felt a little bit like, well, like I'm not carrying my weight like now. And it's like, you just have to continue to navigate that. But the fact that we've both felt that, and we've both like at different times, just goes to show that we do have a really strong partnership, because we're like, I have no doubts that Chris will always carry her weight whether it's not going to be linear. She's not going to linearly carry her weight the whole year. There's going to be times where she has to pull back. There's going to be times where she's aggressively pushing more and vice versa. And I think that's what really does come from like a business partnership. There's just a large push and pull of like each person. And I think too, like I was telling Kaden this, I'm like, I honestly don't know what I would do if I wasn't with Chris throughout this process. Like, I feel like my business would probably really be failing right now because I actually have a team to show up for. And like, I know that if I'm not pulling my weight, like Chris is going to be like, what the fuck? And also like, I have to like at some point, even if again, it looks different right now, where I have to figure out and navigate this whole thing. Like we even had a discussion last week where you were talking about like WWBA calls and figuring out your call cadence. And, it's like, I have a literal baby and you have like a second job, like on top of Apex. It's like, we're both navigating like super busy lives and how to make that work. And it, like, that's just how it, I guess, works out for us. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure on all of it. And I think bringing this all back to business partnership for you guys is like, just being understanding that life's going to happen and not everyone's going to respond to life the same way you would. Like, I don't think you can have I can't have an expectation of you of how to navigate motherhood when one, I haven't gone through it myself. And two, everyone experiences it differently. Like with grief, I can't expect, if, for example, Kenneth and I, we both experience grief very differently. And there's definitely some days where I'm like, Kenneth, like, how are you not like sad, or how are you not this? And it's like, he just processes things differently. And I think when you're in a business partnership, it's just realizing that like some things are going to be processed differently, but like your goals, your values, like everything still comes back to the root of why you did it in the first place. And I agree that even through everything I went through in the beginning of last year, business productivity, business output, input, all the things would have looked very different had I not been in a business partnership, because it still got me to show up. It still gave me some sense of accountability. And I think that that was the most important as well. And I think Mr. Deacon's gonna do it. Oh, hi, buddy. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you should, because Mr. Deacon just joined. Go to the 5629 mark here.
I heard him crying with Kaden, and I was like, oh, you see a little tear. I was like, you can bring him in here if you want to. I'm muted.
Oh, hi, buddy.
Oh,
yes,
no,
I get
no one
it.
wants to hear you cry.
I get it.
Sarah.
I get it. But yeah, so I just think like when you're going through a business partnership, it's going to challenge you because you are going to be dealing with another real person, real life emotions. But then you're also going to still be having this like business structure and these business goals. And just what always helps is that, Kelsey and I have aligned on those goals, and, we talk about our goals, and we've built better systems to like our KPIs and having visibility, and Megan helps us with it. So it's not always perfect. It's not always easy, but there's definitely just like continuous, I would say, momentum in the direction that we need, even if that means it like looks a little different one month than we expected to because of life. But genuinely having someone else to kind of like pick up the quote unquote slack when you feel like you can't show up entirely is really important. And I've said it before too, of like the whole marriage comparison where it's like marriage isn't 50-50. It's like the same with business partnership. Like business partnership is a marriage. Like you are literally seeing this person. Kelsey and I wish that there was a streak on text of like how many days we've texted each other. I don't think we've ever gone a day without texting since we merged. Like we have been texting each other. I talk to Kelsey more than I talk to even my husband, actually. Yeah. Some days I'm like, I talk to Kelsey more than I do anybody else. And if you are going to surround yourself with a business partner, you have to get used to knowing that this is going to be the person you talk to every day. But there's going to be times where Kelsey, is going to give 70 and I'm going to give 30 that day. And there's going to be times where, it truly is a 50-50 in an ideal world. And there's going to be times where, Kelsey's on maternity leave. So I'm picking up most of it because that's the agreement that we made. So you have to sometimes set your ego aside and remember why you got into a business partnership and that there's two of you now and not just one of you. And that can be its own learning curve. But like, I genuinely have not questioned the merge at any point because it's just done better for me and like my quality of life and made me more motivated to work as well.
Yeah, it's so funny too. Like I feel like we were like, oh, we merged so we could have more time back. And there's definitely been times where I'm like, how would I be doing this on my own? I'm like, where's my time at? But then there's other times where I'm like, oh, this is super nice. Like I know it's done. And even like live calls, it's like, oh, I don't have to talk the whole time. Like Chris can actually talk, and like it's two brains in one. And I think that's really what does make like the cohorts really special and ACA really special is like you kind of get two sides of like Chris and I are both very strong coaches, which is why we coaches. And I think it's really cool because we each have like our own thing that we bring. Like there will be certain questions that will be asked in those situations. And like, I'm like, actually, I think Chris is way better. And like vice versa. She's like, I think that's a question for Kelsey. And like, I think it's just really cool, like that perspective you get as well. So I think that's really what also makes Apex Coach Accelerator so special and our cohort so special, which is something I'm thankful for. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very unique.
but we're open books. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, like I really am considering business partnership, I think it would be an easier route for me. You know, we're always willing to have that conversation and talk with you to see if it is something you're even like would be beneficial for you and helpful for you. So never hesitate to reach out to us.
Nope. Always here. Always will be.
Always will be.
But yeah, no, it's fun. It's a fun time. And then, yeah, any ideas you guys are really having in business, just shoot them over. We're genuinely always happy to talk. Kelsey and I always say we walked so you guys could run, like genuinely. Although I think we sprinted through a merge. I think we literally, there was no walking there.
Yeah, there's no walking. I don't know what that means anymore.
We did something faster than the average person ever would. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're excited to continue to support you guys. And that's everything I have for today. So we'll see you guys next time. And Deacon wants to say goodbye.
Say bye. Thanks for watching.
See you later. Oh, the milk. That is just, yep. Yep. He's like, oh, that was good.
Say bye.
Bye, Deacon. See you later. See you guys.